All right, this week on the Powerlifting for a Sec series, we're going to be looking at the front squat. So when we utilize the front squat a lot, it is a great variation to work on improving the squat mechanics, staying more vertical, utilizing the legs more than the back. We're able to challenge the quads to a greater degree because we can get the knees more forward. We're going to do a video on that soon. In addition, we can also work on strengthening that upper back, building a nice strong torso. So I'm going to go over a couple of details that go with having a nice strong front rack. All right, so the front rack. Front rack is one of the most challenging variations of setting up for a lot of people because of the position of the bar. We position the bar in the front of our body. It allows to have a better counterbalance, but for a lot of people it can be very uncomfortable. So I want to show you guys ways that you can set up and be more comfortable in that position. So one of the first things I have people do is learn where to place the bar. When we are looking to place the bar, I want to try and find a position where the bar is in this crease. So when I bring that thumb up to the roof, I can see that I've got my forearm or my arm nice and parallel to the ground, but I've got this little divot that's made from my deltoid and then the groove of my clavicle and my posterior shoulder. So when I go to set up, I want to be able to get the bar against my collarbones and then in that little divot. Every variation of the front rack hold that we'll be using is going to have a key detail of having that arm nice and high. So when I set up, the first thing I want to have you do is come in, get your shoulders up to the bar, thumbs to the roof, get comfortable with that bar position. Realistically, you should be able to squat here. And then we'll go into the variations from there. So once you have that basic setup down, now we can go to the variations. So when we're looking at the front rack hold, the first way that most people will learn how to do it is with a crisscross style. It's more of the bodybuilding style. And so you set up the same way, come in, thumbs to the roof, get your feet under, cross, cross. And then from there, I can work on unracking the bar and coming out. One of the key details with this position is I want to have my fingers placed over top of the bar as far back as I can. By getting them as far back as I can, instead of being out here, as I bring my hands further back, my elbows will come tighter together. I'll be in a tighter position to be able to stay more upright. I want to be as tight as we can throughout every lift, and so this is a great way to be able to get that in this position. So I come in, I'm reaching as far back as I can, that feels comfortable, elbows up, and then I go through my lift from there. If you find that that's pressing too much against your neck, you can push your shoulders forward, and that can open up a little bit of space so it's not against those carotid arteries. Then we've got the next variation. You'll see one of our coaches, Byron Wiley, utilized this a lot. It's where you have your thumbs in the center and then your fingers against the side of your neck. This is closer to that clean grip style. So I come in, I get nice and high, thumbs in the center, fingers on the sides, and I can go through my lift from here. The last variation is the clean grip style. This is not mandatory, obviously, as we're not weightlifters. For a power lifter, your goal is to utilize the front squat to build up your back squat. So when we were looking at this, I will say that I think this is the best variation to do of gripping the front rack if you can, but if you're not able to, then it's not a big deal. Now when I'm setting up, I want to work on trying to find a grip position where my hands are just outside of my shoulders. And so key detail is how wide your shoulders are. So I know that I'm going to be right about here. For most people, it's going to be approximately a thumb width out. And then from here, as I go up, I can get my feet underneath the bar. I can come forward, shoot my elbows up and high, and then keep those elbows high and let the bar roll into my fingertips. Now, depending upon the flexibility of your shoulders and your wrists, which we're going to go through in a bit, you're going to be able to set up differently. If you find that you don't have a lot of flexibility for this movement, you can let the bar rest on your fingertips. And if you have a very good amount of flexibility, then you can actually grip the bar. I will say that I think people should start off with just fingertips and progress to having the grip on the bar because it can be a lot more stressful in the wrist if you don't have shoulder flexibility to allow for it. So again, I come in, get set up underneath, elbows to the roof, and then from here, as I'm going through my lift, I'm thinking of corkscrewing my elbows to the center. And if you have the flexibility for it, then you can have full grip onto the bar and set up. So if you find that your wrists are getting a little bit uncomfortable from the movements or having any issues with keeping your elbows up, we're going to go through a few mobility exercises that can help improve that front rack position for you. So in setting up the front rack position, there's a few key details that we want to have nice and loose and mobile and strong to be able to get that good position. So a couple of things that help people are to loosen up the thoracic spine, their posterior shoulder, and their triceps. So I'm going to show you that first. So the easiest thing to do to begin with is to do some foam rolling. So I can set up with a foam roller. I want to foam roll that thoracic spine so my ribs are and up. So I can set up here, cross my arms, rolling. I can add in some extensions to get some extra thoracic extension as I go. Then I can start working on that posterior shoulder to help with some rotation. Then I can get my triceps. Obviously making sure to do both sides. Then from there we can work on trying to get active mobility through the areas. So as I was saying before, most people that struggle with this and get a lot of pressure on their wrists is usually because their shoulders aren't moving well. And so to improve that, we start off with the thoracic spine, then we can go to the shoulder. So the first thing to do after you've done the foam rolling is you can go to a quadruped extension rotation. So I set up on my hands and knees, one hand on my back, down and up. Driving that elbow as far up as I can. Following that up, we can go to a bench T-spine mob. So I set up with the bench, elbows down, walk my knees back, and then I can let that chest sit down, bring my hands back, get those triceps involved, back forward, and up. Once you've done those two, the next one that you can add in is just doing an active controlled stretch. And so what I do is I can take a PVC pipe, set up so it's against my arm, nice and vertical, and then I contract in trying to pull the pipe this way. Contract for about 5 seconds, and then I relax, pull deeper into the stretch for 10 seconds, hold here. I go through this for about 4 to 8 times until my shoulders have loosened up to the required amount so I get a nice full grip onto that bar. So, for this week on the Powerlifting for Aesthetics series, we went over the front squat, how to improve that front rack position, the variations of the front rack, how to get nice and tight, and some strategies that you can implement to improve it. So, we'll catch you guys next week.